Senator, let's turn to the coronavirus crisis. Cases in your home state of Iowa have steadily risen for the last 2 weeks. You criticized President Obama in 2014 for his handling of the Ebola outbreak, saying that he showed, quote, failed leadership. Only 2 people in the U.S. died from Ebola. Right now, there are almost 130,000 Americans dead from coronavirus. So if President Obama showed failed leadership then, do you think President Trump is showing failed leadership now?
Well, I think we all have responsibility in stopping the spread. And certainly I've heard some of the discussions earlier. Wearing a mask is entirely appropriate. Social distancing is entirely appropriate. We have seen, I think, 1 additional death in the last 24 hours here in Iowa. So it is something that we absolutely should be paying attention to. And we all should do our part to make sure that we are protecting others as well. So this is a virus that's not going to go away soon. We want to make sure that we are watching this and doing everything that we can as a federal government, including the research and development of therapeutics and vaccinations, to make sure that we are doing the right thing as a nation.
So given the fact that 1 person died there, that's only half the number that died during Ebola, which you said was failed leadership. Is the president right now exhibiting failed leadership?
Well, I think that the president is stepping forward, and we have Vice President Mike Pence that is spearheading the task force efforts on the coronavirus. And so understanding where this came from, how it developed, of course, the pushback that we got from the Democrats when the president did try to shut down travel from some of those hot spots, it was an extremely difficult environment to operate. And, you know, we know different today than we did at the beginning of the spread of the virus. And we should continually learn from those efforts and make sure that we are doing the right thing by moving our nation forward. Simple things, wearing a mask, making sure that we're washing our hands, but then as federal government officials, making sure we're moving at warp speed to get to that vaccination.
So that we're clear, this is Republican Senator Joni Ernst, who had criticized Obama for his handling of the Ebola outbreak that left 2 Americans dead, still opting to defend Trump, whose handling of the coronavirus outbreak has left not 2, not 3, but 130,000 Americans dead. But no, the GOP is definitely not a cult of personality. It's interesting that her initial response here is that we all have to take steps to slow the spread, and specifically points out wearing a mask. What with Trump himself having turned mask wearing in the United States into a political wedge issue. He has taught his supporters not to wear masks. He himself couldn't even be bothered to wear a mask, claiming that he didn't want to seem weak. She brings up social distancing. 2 of the last public appearances Trump made were large events with no social distancing. At his rally in Tulsa, his campaign actually removed thousands of social distancing signs off of chairs in the arena. And at Trump's 4th of July speech at Mount Rushmore, not only was there no social distancing, but the chairs were actually zip-tied together, making distancing literally impossible. So if Ernst's position is that we need to take steps to mitigate the spread of the virus, she might want to take that up with her party's leader, who has effectively made it impossible through his own guidance to his followers to mitigate the spread of this virus. It's telling, too, that Ernst's only defense of Trump is that there was pushback when he tried to shut down travel to hotspots. And all this is a reiteration of Trump's own talking points. Travel bans, whether internationally or domestically, are not a solution to a pandemic. Closing down travel does little to slow the spread because, as we've seen, you don't need cross-country travel to still have massive outbreaks across the country. For months, people weren't traveling anywhere, and yet somehow we managed to see 2.9 million cases in this country. The solution was testing and contact tracing, producing PPE, advocating for social distancing, and wearing masks. All of which the Trump administration failed to do. Instead, they just spent months throwing themselves a parade for enacting a half-baked travel ban to China as if that worked, as if that solved the outbreak. It clearly didn't, but Trump wasn't interested in doing the work. He just wanted to take one simple step and then spend the next 3 months congratulating himself for it. And we're seeing firsthand the consequences of that right now. Ernst even tries to cover for Trump by claiming that we know differently today than we did at the start of the virus. At the start, epidemiologists and experts were calling for the exact same thing they're calling for today. There aren't different ways to contain the spread now, in July, than there were in January or February. The issue is that Trump, and by extension the Republican Party, never bothered to take those steps. Trump never wore a mask. He never advocated for social distancing. He never created a nationwide testing plan. These things didn't happen then, and they didn't happen now. So Joni Ernst can lean on this idea that the whole landscape of the pandemic has changed from the beginning of the outbreak to now, but it hasn't. It's that the GOP never bothered to take it seriously from the start. The fact that Ernst is still incapable of not groveling at Trump's feet, even amid a pandemic response that has led to the deaths of more than 130,000 Americans, is proof that she's not interested in your lives, she's interested in her political future. That's it. She's too scared to criticize an administration that has overseen more than 100,000 deaths, even as she fell over herself to criticize the Democratic administration for only 2 deaths. The Republican Party serves only one person, and it's the guy currently letting people die with no plan to stop it. If you like that video, please check out my brand new podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, where I'll cover the most important political stories of the week and interview major players in the world of politics. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out and subscribe now.